Edward Brown, host of the Best of Investing, here to remind you to tune in this week on Saturday at 8 p.m. We're going to be talking about real estate and the economy. You're not going to want to miss the show. That's the Best of Investing on Saturday at 8 p.m. Welcome. You're listening to the Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during the show. That certificate's not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. Today's trivia theme is miscellaneous trivia. We do have a special guest today, Stewart Heath of Harvard Grace Capital. The name of this episode is The Commercial Office Market is Not Dead. That'll be awesome. Good news for everyone who's going to be listening in. Stewart founded the Harvard Grace Corporation in 2010, which has since expanded into Harvest Grace Capital. HG Corporation still provides fractional C-level executive services to clients as well as general business consulting. Stewart also sits on several boards, including HGC, Winsome Truth, The Shepherd's Call, and Second Chance Sober Living. In 2016, Heath was recognized as a finalist for the National Business Journal's CFO Awards. Currently, Heath holds several fractional CFO's positions. Hey, Stewart, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thanks for having me here, Edward.
Okay. Hey, let me ask you, this last part that I read, fractional CFO's positions, is that sort of like CFO to hire?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Okay. So companies, how do they know about you and they hire you to be a CFO?
It's mainly referral. We've been very blessed in our practice to be able to take on the clients that we want to take on. And it is, when you're going in at a C-level, full-time or fractional, it's a bit of a marriage. And so, you want to do some dating before you go all in, because you're going deep on the inside as the CFO, really, whether it's part-time or not. And so we're pretty particular about who we can take on as a client these days. So.
Yeah, I would think you'd have to interview a lot of the employees to make sure that you're, like you said, it's kind of a marriage. You don't want to go in there and no hornets nest.
As CFO, you're really kind of getting married to the CEO. So you got to be able to trust them and feel like you're compatible. If it's a situation where you come in every day and he has a new agenda every day because he read an article last night. I've actually come across several of those guys in my career, and just not that they're not successful and not that they're not genuinely nice people, but your organization is just going to stay a mess. So.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Let's see. Okay, so let's first talk about this. We're going to go to a break in a couple of minutes, but at least let's just kind of start off the conversation. So the title of this episode is "The Commercial Office Market is Not Dead." That'll be good news for a lot of landlords. So why is that? What's going on?
Well, first and foremost, the media declared it dead back during 2020, and I've owned an office building since that time, and we were full before the pandemic. We were full after the pandemic. We were full throughout the pandemic. And you really got to go back to the very first rule of real estate investing, which everybody's heard of. Is location. I think, for starters, I think the quote office market unquote is far too broad of a category. Inclusive in that would be medical office. Well, medical office even today is still one of the most competitive pieces of property you can try to go buy. We're closing on one in a couple of weeks down in Birmingham, and it was very competitive, and that's because your doctor's not going anywhere. He's not coming to see you. He's not going remote. And they have these great big machines that cost millions of dollars, and they got to have a place to put them. And so generally your doctors and your dentists and people like that aren't going anywhere.
Okay. All right. We'll get into this more. We're going to cut to our first commercial break here. Trivia theme is against miscellaneous trivia. And just as a reminder, Stuart, if you know the answer, don't say anything yet. We'll see if you can get it. Now, I was on a cruise ship recently, and they asked this question, and I got it wrong, and I was really surprised at the answer. What is the smallest ball used in sports? And we're not counting marbles. I guess technically it is a sport, not a sport, but forget marbles. All right. Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Again, what is the smallest ball used in sports? I want to make a mention here for Mountain Mike's Pizza in San Rafael. Pizza the way it ought to be. Excellent pizza. You got to check them out. Mountain Mike's Pizza in San Rafael. All right, stay with us. You're listening to the Best of Investing. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Stewart Heath. And our first trivia question, what is the smallest ball used in sports? And marbles doesn't count. What would you think?
Me, I would guess a handball, maybe.
Okay, so handball would be one. On the cruise ship, we said ping pong ball, which is smaller than a handball. But it turns out it's a squash ball. I thought, wait a minute, squash is like racquetball. I said, and it turns out that it's 1/100th of an inch smaller than a ping pong ball. Didn't know that. So we got that
That's
wrong
why it's
by
called trivia.
1/100th of an inch. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I do want to make a mention here also for the Axiom Hotel in San Francisco, located in the heart of Union Square. The Axiom Hotel blends a sense of history with modern touches. Guests rave about the staff and how quiet the hotel is, which is pretty cool because if you've ever gone to Union Square, it can be quite busy, but it's quiet at the Axiom Hotel, AXIOM hotels.com. All right, so Stuart, we're starting to talk about the future of office space, but you were also mentioning about medical, which is, I mean, it's kind of a sort of a hybrid in a way, medical and office. And you said it's not dead. It's interesting. I have a building in a good location, and it used to be R&D, and now it's a little bit more office and lab type of thing. And they signed a lease in December of 2019, so just before the pandemic. And they had the space right next door, excuse me. And so they needed to expand, and so they took over my space as well. And when April came around, I asked them, I was a little nervous. I go, how are things going? And at the time, people were, 6 feet was the science, right? And so he says, yeah, Edward, we're actually glad we got your space because it allowed us to distance everybody from themselves. So it's kind of interesting that way. But and I remember hearing that a lot of employers were starting to require their employees to come back to work, even when the pandemic hadn't been over. So there's the work from home type of situation. And like for recording a radio show, it works out great because you're in Tennessee, right?
At the moment,
So
I'm in Orange Beach, Alabama on vacation.
There you go. And then didn't you say you're closing on a building in Alabama?
Yes, we are in Birmingham in about 2 weeks. Yeah.
Birmingham. Okay. Very good. So, so what does the future of office space look like in your opinion?
The broader point is there are many, many subcategories of office. Just to get to the chase, cut to the chase, get to the point. I think the one class that's really going to suffer some pain in office is Class A and downtown central business district office. These are the places that employers, had where everybody had to come to work. They don't see customers there generally. And it was just a place for employees to gather. And these are the places like downtowns or you've got the very nice suburban offices and stuff like that. These are the places employees don't want to go to anymore. They don't see the point in going to anymore because they can work from home and they've got Zoom and we're all practically in the same room.
Yeah.
Our other
and they don't want to commute. It's the commuting and the
Yes,
traffic.
exactly.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trend of moving away from downtown areas, which had reversed itself once, had already gone back to the suburbs before the pandemic. It accelerated in the pandemic. And so, the properties that we like are what I call suburban office. They're generally Class B buildings. They will have, they might have an insurance agent, a mortgage company, maybe a dentist, and these kind of neighborhood. Some people call it service retail, and that's a good descriptor of it. And I'll grab every single one of those that I can find. And
At the right
what's that?
at the
At the
right
right
price.
price. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
These are the types of properties that are cash flowing. They're stable, and what I like to call, they have customer facing tenants in them. So if that's where they meet their customer, that lease is strong. They're going to need that office. That's the differentiator to me.
Gotcha. Okay, well that's very interesting there. It's actually one of the other questions you had here was, what's my pick for an asset class with a surprise upside? And I guess that's that Class B building,
Yeah,
right?
actually,
Also, what about
when I wrote that question,
I mean,
it was the answer was retail. That there's another asset class that was declared dead in 2020,
yeah,
and which basically stopped any development of retail for about 24 months. And what's the hottest class in 2024? Retail. Yeah, in a lot of
really?
major metros, retail is just the hot, and the per square foot rates are going through the roof because there's no availability, because nobody built it for a while.
It, we have to go to a break here, but I want to ask you
Okay.
more about that because if I want to find out, does it have to do with the fact that just people they can't just sit at home ordering from Amazon all the time for life? They want to like get out of their house type of thing. So okay, we'll get into that in the next segment here. Okay, so second trivia question: where would you find the smallest bone in your body? What part of your body? All right. Call 888. With me, it's the brain, of course, but call 888. That's not a bone, though. Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate, which, by the way, is worth about $100. So that's a nice little prize that's being given away. All right, again, here's the trivia question. Where would you find the smallest bone in your body? All right, stay with us. You're listening to The Best of Investing. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. One more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Stewart Heath. Second trivia question: where would you find the smallest bone in your body? Stuart, you know the
My
answer?
guess is going to be in the ear.
Yes, that is correct. You're batting 500. I like that. Okay, so before we cut out to break, we were talking about your surprise prediction is retail. I was going to throw some comments and tell me if I'm correct that at some point people just get so cooped up that they want to get out of their house. So Amazon's still doing well, but there's still something about the experience of going out and shopping, or going out to a mall and hit a restaurant and look around. Is that
Yeah,
true?
I think so. Now, I think it's heavily dependent upon the part of the country you're in. Yeah, I like to say that us over here in the South sort of pretended there was no pandemic from about June of 2020 on, and so we just kept getting out, and people were going to the office and all that kind of stuff. But I think experiential stuff, especially for the people who are working at home all day, they love to go out to eat.
Yeah.
They like to go out and do stuff, whether it's a
Yeah.
mall, and then there's just good old fashioned. Some people like to go touch and feel something before they buy it off of Amazon. It's easy to buy a book off of
Oh,
Amazon, but some people like to go see it. But I think it's all of the above.
but hopefully they wouldn't just do looky loos and then buy it on Amazon,
Oh,
because then the
people
retailer's
do
not
that
going
all
to
the
do.
time, but the retailers
Sure.
have those strategies for that too. So
Yeah, like some of them say we'll match an Amazon price or
Yeah,
something
and then,
like that.
and then you can get it right
Like
then at that moment, versus waiting a couple of
yeah.
days. So
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes when it gets shipped, sometimes there's problems
yeah,
with the shipping. Be it porch pirates or damage and that sort of. I'm not knocking
yeah.
Amazon because I personally, as just a consumer,
Me
I love
too.
them. I
They're my
really do.
go-to for
Yeah,
almost everything. Yeah.
I know. It's just the it's amazing how Bezos has made that work. Um, so, what did you learn from your experience of losing it all during the financial crisis? So, tell us what happened.
Well, we were doing a bunch of real estate investing, and I sort of got in on the wave of the early 2000s rather late. Made some money,
Yeah.
and I was doing it all by myself, or really with no capital at all. And so I'd buy this property and let it appreciate, take out the equity, and buy something else. I think they call that the equity ladder.
Mm.
And so by the time you get down to the end of it, you've got massive amounts of real estate, by appraisal, and very little ability to weather a
Equity.
storm. So what I really learned.
Yeah, because it's debt that always kill
Oh
you
yeah,
on that.
yeah. Debt always kills you.
Yeah.
And but I would say one of the things I learned was the proper use and amount of debt, and the other is the importance of reserves. That's first and foremost. You got to be able to
Yeah.
weather the storm because you don't know what you don't know. Warren Buffett said it best, I think in 2008. So now we're going to see who's been swimming without their trunks on. And because the tide went out, and woo, there was a bunch of people out there that let's just say were.
I remember many years ago doing tax returns. There was a client of mine who, lived in like Union City, California, in the South Bay here, but he owned a whole bunch of rentals in Oregon. And he owned 15 rentals. And he was leveraged at about 75% on each one. And this was back in the 80s. So when the recession hit in 1990, one by one, like dominoes, he just lost every single one of them. And it's tough because I understand, you have, bill, something that's worth $1 million and it's debt free. And you're thinking that, boy, that's all there's equity tied up. Maybe I could access that and make money on money. But one has to do it quite judiciously, I would say. All right, I'll tell you what, let's go to another break here. When we come back, want to find out about investing in Tennessee Valley. I love Tennessee. Been in Nashville just it's actually twice now. Great town. Love it. All right, here's our third trivia question. What character first appeared on a Coke can? Now you have to go back in time, right? Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate, which again is worth about $100. And by the way, Stuart, even if you don't get this one, you'd be 1 for 3. That's still batting 333. Not bad, right? All right, here's our trivia question again. What character first appeared on a Coke can? All right, stay with us. You're listening to The Best of Investing. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Edward Brown here, along with Stewart Heath. Our third trivia question. What character first appeared on a Coke can?
I really don't know, but the only old Coke memorabilia I can think of is Santa Claus.
That is correct. Wow, 2 out of 3. Man, that's batting 667. I like that. I didn't even have to take off my shoes and socks to figure that one out. Okay, all right. So now you're focusing on investing in Tennessee Valley. It's so funny because where I live, we have a section of Mill Valley called Tennessee
Really?
Valley, and it's beautiful for hiking, walking to the beach, and all that kind of stuff. So Tennessee Valley, is that the Nashville area?
Not really. Tennessee Valley is generally the area referred to as North Alabama, but also, it's because the Tennessee River dips way down in West Tennessee and then East Tennessee and cuts through northern Alabama. Tennessee River never cuts through Middle Tennessee, which is where Nashville is. But the Tennessee River Valley is generally referred to. That's sort of Huntsville, Alabama, northern Alabama, and so we more specifically refer to our target area as the 840-565 corridor, which is two interstates, northern Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee, and we like everything in between.
And why is that?
Well, it's where we live. I've been here 40 years in my adult life, and we want to property manage everything that we do, so we got to be close to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, the economics are just great. I mean, I won't say we won't do anything in Nashville, but there's an awful lot of competition. Nashville's still a great market. The more I do shows like this, the more people hear about Huntsville, Alabama, and it's like, maybe I shouldn't say that, but it reminds me of Nashville 35 years ago. Frankly, Huntsville does.
Yeah. So are you focusing on retail and that kind of real estate?
We are asset class agnostic. So we have storage, we have medical office, we have suburban office, we have retail, and we're.
But no residential. Sounds like no residential.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to multifamily. It's not something that I want to manage, but multifamily being the queen of commercial, there's a lot of competition for it. And so if a property won't cash flow from day one, we don't buy it. And so
that wouldn't make sense to me to buy anything that doesn't cash flow.
I have underwritten and made offers on dozens of multifamilies, but there's always some guy standing around who needs to put his crew to work, doing a value add and stuff like that. We don't generally do that. We just like stabilized properties that we can get for a price that'll cash flow and pay investors their returns. We call them boring properties. We're just looking for boring stuff.
So are you doing syndications or you have
we
a
syndicate
fund?
everything?
Okay, syndicate. And how large are your syndications?
Our target range is from $5 to $15 million.
Oh, well, that's pretty good size.
Pretty good. And it keeps us under the big boys' radar, I think. So.
Yeah, and do you have to be accredited investor to go into those?
We use an exemption called 506C, where every investor must be accredited.
Yeah. Gotcha. What kind of returns are you aiming for your clients?
We generally won't bring anything to market unless we can reasonably expect. I'll say conservative, but you can go too conservative, but reasonably expect a 20% IRR or better, and at least in year one, a 5% cash on cash return that will increase year after year.
Okay, and then plus the fact that you own the real estate, it's got what kind of leverage is there?
We generally won't ever go more than 70% across our portfolio. We've got an average of 63% leverage across the portfolio.
Gotcha. So you're for the most part, I got to think that most or all of that 5% is going to be sheltered by depreciation.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll do a cost segregation study so everybody gets bonus depreciation in year one, and there's still other depreciation that comes out, and we usually expect to see that first year at 5%. There should be leases where you got built-in increases, and so we expect to see that jump to 6.5% or 7% year two, and so forth or so on. So.
Okay. And before I forget, if anybody was interested in getting in contact with you, how would they do that?
Do that is go to harvardgrace.com. That's HARVARDGRACE. You can find my Calendly link there, an email address, and I invite anybody and everybody who wants to chat about real estate to reach out. And there's also some cool resources if you're that are free. Just download those. But yes, reach out and talk to me.
All right. And then what's unique about Harvard Grace? Your question you have here at managed asset. What's unique about you guys?
Well, we're unique in that we do manage everything. We are the boots on the ground, and we sort of already talked about, we focus on this geographic area. And you'll find a lot of syndicators, asset managers, they'll focus on an asset class. And I don't think that's wrong. We just feel compelled that there's so much opportunity in the Tennessee Valley that I don't need to fly all over the country. And of course, we can't do property management in Oregon. I could, we're not even going to do property management really for the Birmingham asset, because we'll sub that out, because that's a 2-hour drive, and our policy is, if we're going to do it, we got to be there within an hour. So I think those two things.
How big is your crew?
We just added. We have 3 full-time, and then several contractors that are with us. Been with us for years now. That's about 4 people in those contractors. So the team is growing.
All right. Okay, very good. Stewart, stay with us. We're going to cut to our last break here. We don't have a trivia question. I do want to give an update as to what's going on at Pacific Private Money for those interested, because we're still paying anywhere from, or they're still paying anywhere from, I think, a low of 8% up to as high as 11%, and it's just being a lender. So stay with us. The Best of Investing. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Stewart Heath, which is very interesting to learn about the Tennessee Valley corridor, so to speak, right up in that Alabama area. And it's interesting because I've got a few loans in the Alabama. I don't know. I'd have to look at a map to see how close they are. I've got some in Tennessee and some in Alabama. So I manage the Pacific Southwest Note Fund. So we buy discounted mortgages. Right now we're hovering right around 10 million, and we just provide a flat 8.5% to our clients. Same sort of 506 fund. Everybody has to be accredited. I forgot to ask you how long do your syndications last? So when would people get their principal back generally?
We estimate that they'll get it back within 3 years, but that would typically be through a refinance of the property. And that's not buying them out. So we want to refinance the property, get them their cash back tax-free as soon as possible. And then we like to say we will hold the asset until there's a natural reason in the asset's life to get rid of it. We're not fee-driven, so we're not trying to churn deals just because we have to.
At that point, you're playing house money, so to speak, as they say. Once someone's got their money back, that's a good way of doing it. Yeah, at Pacific Private Money, it's a different model. They're basically they're acting like the bank, and so people invest there, and they don't have to hold it for 3 years. There's on most of the assets, most of the funds, because there's a few different funds they have. There's no hold time, but they generally ask for 3 to 6 months ahead of time so that they can position the cash flow so that because you don't want a situation where someone says, I want my money tomorrow, and now you're scrambling around because you can't keep money sitting in a no interest bearing account, not earning interest. It doesn't make sense. So it's kind of a cash flow analysis on that. So on their Freedom Fund, they're paying again anywhere from 8 to 11% on there. They're coming out with a new fund I believe it's called Arrival, and it's strictly going to do just the owner-occupied consumer bridge loans. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're going to come out with that one at a straight 10%. It is going to be, I think, 100,000 minimum investment. They may go down to 50, but they're still trying to figure that out. And it pays quarterly. All the other funds pay monthly, but they are asking for a 1-year commitment. So it's pretty good for people who have, let's say, an IRA account where they're not going to be touching the money. That works pretty well.
Being the lender's position is not a bad position to be in.
No, it's like we let all the experts do the management side of things. We're just going to go ahead and just be the bank, and the thing is, if we have to foreclose, then we're going to pick it up for less than 100 cents on the dollar. So potentially, the best thing that can happen is when things go bad. Yeah. So, and they say you make your money on the underwriting part. Make sure you underwrite it well. And you're kind of
Yeah,
the same way. You're going to make your money when you buy the property if you buy it well enough.
yeah.
And
That's
the way
rule number two. First rule is location, location, location. The second
right.
rule is you make your money on the buy, not the sell.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Stuart, thank you. So listen to this. This is a long thoughts for the day. We have our thoughts for the day. Usually they're short. This one's a little longer. So I was driving around with my son and trying to teach him, life lessons type of thing. And so I saw this guy who looked homeless and he was eating grass on the side of the road. And trying to teach my son about charity, I told the guy to come to my car and let him know I was going to bring him home to my house. About 100 yards later, we saw another guy eating grass, and the first guy in my car now, asked if we could pick him up also because it was his brother. And I said, yeah, sure, okay. So, now I got these two guys in the car, and about 100 yards or so later, we see two old people stoop down eating grass. And the guys in the car asked me if they could come to these two could come to my house as well. And I said, hey, how big do you think my lawn is? I knew you'd like that one. All right, audience, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week. So long.